Welcome to another episode of the Provider's Playbook. Today we're going to find out, are you as passionate as a suicide bomber? How idiot might be one of the most disrespectful words? And finally, why branding in the NDIS sector sucks. We are joined by the boys from Inclusive AF. Boys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here, guys.
So why don't you guys start off, just introduce yourselves quickly, and then we're going to jump into a game to get to know you guys a bit better.
Tommy Trout here with my gorgeous, tiny little brother, Jackson Trout.
Hello, everyone.
Oh my God, I love you guys. Okay, cool. So we are going to start by playing a little bit of game. And normally we do it with like a question game, but I know you boys are way more fun than that, let's be honest, right? Yeah. So our last guest I tried to play this game was, and he couldn't do it, which is amazing for a man of his depth. So I'm counting on you boys. Have you got this?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, cool. It's called Finish the Lyric.
All right.
Okay, all right. So I think it's pretty un-Australian if you don't know these lyrics, right?
Oh, that's such a shitty way to propose it.
No, but what if it's...
You're a bad person if you don't know these lyrics. Okay, let's begin the game.
Pretty much. All right, so we're going to start with an easy one, right? Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi, right? I'll start with giving you the lyric, and then you have to finish the lyric. Are you ready? Do you want me to sing it, or do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll say it, but you sing it.
Yeah.
Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa.
Living on a prayer.
Amazing. All right, you ready? This one, Chris will know this one, loves all the girly songs. All right, Firework by Katy Perry.
Oof.
'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come and show 'em what you're worth. Make him go.
Oh, am I doing
Chris,
it?
go.
I think it's like,
That's it.
Oh, wow, that wasn't that hard.
Okay, cool. All right.
How are you un-Australian if you don't
but
know these? These aren't Australian songs at all.
All right, cool. Okay.
Mr. Slim Dusty.
I gotta think about which one.
Top hoods.
Oh.
Up. Give me some of that.
Okay, no, I got nothing of that.
They are pub songs, though,
They
to
are,
be fair.
they are.
Yeah.
They go off. Country Boy goes off.
Okay. No Scrubs by TLC.
Oh, this is a track.
I don't want no...
Let's go.
Okay, ready? I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me. Hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's drive, trying to...
Holler at me.
You got it. Okay, all right.
I feel like this is rigged for you to win, Rach. Why don't I read one?
Okay, all right. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. I know that I can't take no more. It ain't no lie.
No, you have to sing it.
I can't sing it. I don't even know the tune. Yeah,
Okay, you sing it.
No, wait. I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't sing it. I can't think. Tommy can come up with one. Tommy, it's your job.
Tommy, you're now hosting the show.
The ADHD Playbook podcast is amazing.
I'll sing. I'll find the lyrics.
Okay,
I'll find the lyrics.
all right, Jack is up. We've done such a good job of hosting this game.
Okay. Okay.
Just sing
Girls
it.
just
Don't
want
tell
to
them what the
fun.
song is. Just sing it, see if they get it.
Oh, girls, they want to have fun. Oh, girls just want to.
Have fun. Hey, Jack.
All right, this
Jack,
one. I don't
Jack,
know.
I'm swapping you out. Host of the new Provider Playbook. Welcome on, Jack.
Last one. Toxic by Britney Spears.
Okay, go.
With a taste of your lips, I'm on a ride. You're toxic. I'm.
No, you have to sing it.
I don't know how that goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Jack, it's you and me moving forward, mate.
With the taste of your lips, I'm on a ride.
You're toxic. I'm
Satisfied.
Petrified?
slip it under.
Slip it under.
What?
Slip it under.
Okay.
Slipping out. Oh, yeah. No.
We need to
wasn't
think
gonna
more of
happen.
that game. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad.
We're done,
Taste
Jack.
of my lips, son. Go on.
We're going to get on a thing over.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was fun. Thank you for playing, boys. All right, so Tommy, founder of WeFlex.
Yes.
And now, I'm assuming founder and...
Co-founder of Inclusive AF with co-founder Jack.
Okay, we've got the two founders of Inclusive AF. Now, you know my brain is a little dirty, so I always go towards as...
inclusive, accessible, and fun.
That's
I
exactly
agree.
where it goes. Yes, okay.
What do you think it was?
No.
Yeah.
I
Just
don't know.
Say it.
I do. I say it all the time. Even when people say, like, where are you from? Tommy from Inclusive as fuck, right?
Yeah.
That's what, I didn't know that it was accessible and fun. I thought it was.
See, this is the
As
bad
fuck.
company that we keep, Jack.
Fair enough.
I think that's kind of the point, guys,
Yeah.
right? Like, they wanted to... I mean, these boys are sassy and they'll say things, how they are and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think it was...
We like to have fun.
it's kind of intentional, right?
We like to have fun, for
Yeah,
sure.
okay. All right, so do you want to start by telling us a little bit about your story, how you started with WeFlex, why you started, and then more importantly, while you're now doing Inclusive AF?
Sure. So the background for WeFlex was industry diehard, been in it forever. Had trips where I worked in juvenile corrections in Sweden, was the National Suicide Prevention Network developer for Lifeline. So I used to build suicide prevention charities in the outback of Australia. Worked in residential drug rehabs, all that. And then one day, our old man, Dad passed away. Dad was incredibly unhealthy, the poster boy for bad health. He was also autistic, but he was of the generation where you weren't really diagnosed. So Dad was just kind of the weird guy, but he was also brilliant at computer games and computers, and so he was able to make a living doing that. Dad passed away from very preventable health issues. Jackie boy was sort of also not doing well health-wise. And Jack and me both decided that it'd be good if we worked out together and got fit. We struggled to find PTs that would train with us because it was like, they heard the label autism, they sort of didn't want to borrow it. And gyms would say, we're not a special needs gym, we don't want you in here. And we eventually found Anytime Fitness. That
Wow, but
great.
Australia's so inclusive.
Oh, it was brutal.
Inclusive
It was just
AF.
the fitness industry is just so bad. And so anyway, I became a PT. I started training Jack. Jack's gone on. How much weight you've lost? Like 12 kilos.
Oh yeah,
Crazy.
I used to be much heavier before. It was back in 2021, and we did basically like a big major 10-kilo loss, and I felt
10
really
kilos.
refreshing.
Wow.
Yeah, Jack lost 10 kilos, but I realised PTs have to be registered. They've got to do professional development. There's no professional development in disability, not only in Australia but like internationally.
Yeah, it's not even part of the CPD points, I imagine, right?
Nothing. And so 3 and 4. And so we're like, okay, fuck, we'll just do it. So we started doing that. We became an NHS provider. We contracted work out to PTs that we accredited and vetted, connected them with people with disabilities who wanted to use their funding for it, and that was WeFlex. But the big part about WeFlex is we didn't want it to have a disability name or feel to it because that can be a bit lame, and we wanted it to feel like a fitness brand. Any kind of fitness brand, but we just happen to specialise in people with disability and their support needs.
I really like you know the guys from Payless?
No, who?
Payless Adventures. So they do basically for kids that basically they never really got the chance to go to school camps because they were seen as the naughty kid or something. They probably didn't have many supports growing up because their disability was quite insignificant in terms of being like seen and not visible.
Not obvious.
It wasn't obvious. So they were saying sort of like you were saying about your dad, a little bit like the weird kid or the bad kid. So then they were, not given that sort of opportunity. So what they do is they put all of these camps on for these participants where they take them out 4-wheel driving, and there's like, the best thing in the world is if we get a flat tire, because then we've got to, improvise and stuff like that. And these experiences where you need things to go wrong so you can learn and develop and capacity build from them is important. Now, all of their brand, all of their marketing, he's got 2 business cards, one that he gives to support coordinators and stuff like that, and the other one, and like all their YouTube stuff, it all is just camps. It's got nothing to do with disability. They don't advertise it as a disability because the people that are going to these camps don't want to feel like they're going to a disability camp, right? Yeah. He probably listens to this and he's probably going to go, you didn't explain it exactly, right? But they're an amazing provider.
That's cool. That's exactly that's our philosophy anyway. It's like, so there's a lot of charities that work with young people, but you see the ads of the bus shelter, and it's like helping disadvantaged kids find their way, and the kids are at that bus stop catching a bus, and they're looking at the brand, and they're like,
that's not me.
That's what they think about me.
100%.
It's for the donors and not for them.
Yes.
And so why would they care?
Yeah.
And they always complain we don't have buy-in. Because they've got like 40-year-old marketing managers trying to
100%,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. And you are such a good brand ambassador. Like, I mean, WeFlex is wicked.
We went hard.
Inclusive AF is even wickeder. Like, it doesn't have at all any sense of that, like, sort of anything around diversity or uninclusive, right? So like, what sort of gave you the ethos to come up with that kind of branding, and you know, sort of how did it come to fruition? Why is it what it is? Why do you love making it so cool? Like,
So
I
when
know
I
this
left-
is your jam.
Yeah, so when I left WeFlex, I had a lot of people reach out to me straight away and sort of ask me what I wanted to do, what I was doing. But I also got, can you come and teach us about entering into the disability market or doing whatever? And so I went, and you've got the assumed knowledge. You're in the industry a long time. Your level of like basic knowledge or common sense is very different to the general population. And so we went in and we were talking and we were just like, oh, fuck, I've got to rewind this right back.
Because it's stuff that you've said
Jesus
1,000
Christ,
times in
yeah.
your head, but they're hearing it for the
Yeah.
first time. Yeah.
Big time. And one thing that happened is that I found that to explain things as they are today, I have to teach history and what has happened. And eventually, me and Jack, we're both pretty autistic. And so Jack's diagnostically autistic. I'm undiagnosed autistic. But what we
I would
decided...
say more ADHD.
Yeah, maybe. So
Welcome to the
what we
ADHD
decided,
game.
what we decided was like, you know what, let's just actually do a full deep dive, go into the history of disability and actually teach the entire history of disability in colonial Australia, which we did. And Jack pretty much led that entire academic effort and presented it. And we now present that as well. And
Jack,
so,
what a ledge.
oh, it is. Or we'll give you guys links after this.
Please.
But like we're talking about the first ever wards and how they used to. How did they break up? Like the original distinction.
Okay, well, so basically in like the mid to late 19th century, like during the 19th century, so here's how it went. In the 19th century, medical advances began to change people's perceptions and ideas of disability, and specifically of mental illness. Whereas like people before used to think, oh, there's something demonic or something just abnormal about them. You find out, oh no, it's a medical thing. So you created the first, asylums to basically place people who would be a danger to themselves and to other people, and for people who are like, quote unquote, not normal, right? And they would put them in these asylums. The problem is that like over time, they realize that there's big difference between people who simply have a mental disability, like people who may have an intellectual delay or, maybe intellectual limitations and may not be as, sophisticated as others. And then there was people who had mental illnesses, which made them more erratic and possibly more dangerous to themselves and to others. So beginning of the mid to the late 19th century, there was a major commission, and they found out that we have to basically properly split the two between people with visual disabilities and people who are mental illnesses.
So
Now,
are we talking about mental illness versus like intellectual disability or
Yeah,
like
they went together.
psychosocial
Yeah,
disability?
they used to
All
just
come
lump them together.
Wow.
And then they cut it in half. You had idiots and you had lunatics.
That's what
And
the
I don't
term they
mean like
use.
that wasn't slang. That was the war. What was the Q?
Oh yeah, okay. So basically, they had the Q Idiots Ward in the United
Actual
States,
name.
and that was the first. I think they say it's like the first major in the world, like the first ever like child institution for children with mental disabilities. And it's kind of a little bit heartbreaking when you realize the stories about like all these families that would just like bring their young kids with disabilities and just leave them there. And
Yeah.
because either because they just didn't want to raise them, they couldn't raise them, or because
Because it was
they
socially
felt
inappropriate back
All of
then
it.
too.
And
Like it
the-
was
yeah, the
like,
social
shame.
shame.
Yeah, shame. Yeah.
But also because I felt like, this place can give them the opportunities that I just can't due to my, like, people didn't know what to do. I mean, imagine, like, especially with kids who may have had, like, specific, for example, like Down syndrome. Like, they didn't quite know what to do with these kids because, like, they have different,
Atypical.
well, they're not like,
There's no books, there's no information, there's no guide, they
And-
didn't understand it, it just was that.
and they just felt like maybe this institution can give them the opportunities I just
It was
can't.
the right thing to do, quote unquote.
Yeah,
Right? Is what you did.
It's
And
what-
so you had these kids that get dropped off into institutional care at like 3, 4, 5 years old,
Oh.
and they're there until they die. So they did schooling together,
Yeah.
they lived together, they'd have like maybe one weekly excursion, if that, and they would get like either a sheltered workshop or just quote unquote the original day programs just on site, and they'd get old there and they'd die there. And
Yeah.
that was it.
I know it's crazy that to think about that. We've interviewed a number of guests that lived in institutions and how they used
Living
to
memory.
like literally.
Yeah,
and,
it's still in current, but
They're
like
still
there's,
alive.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they're still alive. That's how
Yeah.
recent that this was.
So there was this amazing, Jackie Boy knows it better than me, but essentially there was this So institutionalization occurred during mid-20th century, right? And that was, again, standard. And one of the places I used to work at was one of those places. And they had the newspaper clippings from their own story. And like in the 50s, they were using the words retard, subnormal, mongoloid, and that was like appropriate speech.
Yeah.
But then the guy who wrote the book,
John Rorty. So, the interesting story. So, I forget if it's like 70s. I think it was 70s.
no, it's 1967, I think. John Rorty wrote this. So they weren't allowed out, right? And there's no
I don't think it was the 60s. I think it was the 70s, but
maybe.
It was definitely in that period. Like, I think there was
the point.
Okay, basically,
We're having a brotherly quarrel here now.
Yeah, we did.
mid to late 20th century, there was this guy named John Rorty who was in institutional care because he had born with, I think, like severe cerebral palsy, and he was
Physical disability.
physical disability, and he was basically confined in a institution, and he had very little, like back then, like you couldn't really just go out on your own. You didn't really have a lot of freedoms. Like, even though you had like the monetized, wheelchair to help you, so you don't need like someone to push you. You can actually push yourself, drive forward, and maybe just go out and actually just have a little bit of independence. Because when you're disabled like that, like having just simply a motorized wheelchair, that's like
Liberating.
that's
It's
like learning. That's like
independence,
Liberating.
that's like it's like as close as you'll get to like the ability to walk. Like it's freedom. We take things for granted. At the same time, however, he and a bunch of others felt like institutions we were in, they were basically treating us like inmates to an extent. We had very limited freedoms, and they were just like saying that what, this is undignified. We should be able to just break free from this.
So what did he write? What was it called?
It was this book, and the title of it is perfect. It's called Captives of Care.
Yeah, Captives of Care. I'm
And
gonna read
we,
that
by the
book.
way, little word out, we are looking for a copy for that book. If anybody has any info where we can get a copy, maybe a library, please.
It's not like that.
You know what? I
You
haven't-
can't get it at Dymocks. It's
You
not
know
a
what?
good book.
Okay, well, I'm gonna hit up Nick because Nick runs Penrith Book Club. She's my marketing manager.
Oh, if she does.
And she's like a book. Actually, we have a lot of book. Can I call them nerds? Book nerds in
we're
the
book
office.
nerds.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about like all these
Anyone
words
get a
we
copy
used
of
to
that
use,
book?
and
I
now
need a
Rachel's
copy.
like, can we call them nerds?
Oh my god! Can I
People
do
that read books,
Oh,
can we
they're
call them
not a
nerds?
press group. You can call them that.
You know what? I'm having this sense of pride right now because my mum always, when people use the word idiot, and I know it's still used now, my mum used to say, idiot is not a nice word,
Wow, really?
I
Yeah,
didn't
when
know
we were
that
kids, she
either.
used
Like,
to
That
always-
was quite G-rated in our household. That was
yeah,
No,
I
like,
use
my
it
mum used to say,
regularly. I
we
didn't
don't-
know the origins of
Yeah,
it.
we don't say
Yeah,
idiot in
that's
this
the
house.
origin.
Yeah, and she'd said that it's a derogatory way of referring to someone with a disability. And I was like, and so we always grew up like idiot was the bad word. Because idiot was like whatever.
You grew
It's
up
an
with
insult.
like
It's a
rules
mean
on
word.
words.
Oh,
It's basically an insult because
But only-
how
only
would you
that.
get through the day
Three
though,
times spastic.
not
That was-
hearing the word idiot though? Because if every time you hear that word now, you're going to go and you're going to tell the story that Jack just told us, and it is such common vernacular that you would be having that
Vernacular?
conversation
In the-
every once an hour.
In the 90s, the word retard was thrown around like crazy.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
Such a funny.
Well, there was that
2000s
song
and-
by the Black Eyed Peas,
Such a funny.
and it was number one in the world.
There was a moment me and Jack considered making that the theme song of one of our podcasts, but we decided not to.
Can I say this about that term, like, and questions of using terms that can be offensive? I think for a lot of people, it's like, no matter what word you use to describe people, like, the thing is, like, when it comes to people who have, like, intellectual impairments, which, fair enough, like, whatever word you're going to use to describe them, that is going to be used by cruel people as, like, a new term of an insult. And
Like,
so,
like appropriate, like PC language I can be condescending as hell and say, you're so empowering, Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say, fuck you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's
And
like,
also,
Yeah.
and one of your best friends could call you an idiot, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, I love you too.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes,
also-
Full
true.
intention.
but like-
Yes.
is most of it.
like,
But who are we to
the
say?
thing is that, like, like, remember, the term, quote unquote, retard, that was used as a word of, like, oh, that's a more nicer way of saying,
It's medical.
or mentally retarded. We use that as a word as, like, basically, like, the more politically, back then it was considered the politically
It's like saying you
correct
have a
term.
disability.
What's French for
As
slow?
opposed to saying, like, oh, you're an idiot, or you're a lunatic, or something like that. No, he's mentally retarded. That's a nicer word. But now we use it for an insult. So my thing about it is, like, even though I understand, like, the natural urge to be like, what, anti-cruelty, anti-mockery, anti-being mean, no matter what word we use to describe people's disabilities, that is going to be a term of an insult for certain people.
It's all different. Like, some people hate the term differently abled. They just think it's super condescending and annoying. Like, and so you sort of see this language, this journey through language, but why it's such a loaded term, because it's not just like a derogatory insult. It also was how they were absolutely cast away from society and locked up in asylums.
Yeah.
Decades, and they're still alive.
Okay.
Plenty of people
Yeah.
are still alive.
No, wait. So we're talking about John Rorty. Okay, go ahead to that. we're going on tangents. Okay, so basically, he wrote a book called Captures of Care.
How do you get it out?
He was able to get a car because he had some connections with the media, and they were able to even make a movie about it. Like I think it was like a maybe TV movie.
Yeah, really bad one. We've got it on the course.
Yeah. But it stars John Rorty and a bunch of him. So he stars in it as himself, and he basically is a dramatization of what they experienced. It's like a docudrama, and basically it's like treating people as like inmates of an institution that they can't really say no to, in a sense. They can't, like, it's not like they can say, "Oh, I want to check out." It's like, no, you're stuck here because we have power. We have like power over you, in a sense. So basically during that period, the 60s and 70s, not just in Australia but around the world, in America, in England, everything, began the disability rights movements, who were inspired by the other civil rights movements at the time, and they were basically saying, you know what, we don't want to be prisoners of care. We don't want to be prisoners of care. We want to have independence. We want to have independent living. And during this era became the era where people developed the social model. And it says like, no. The reason why we're in institutions is not because we are disabled and therefore can't contribute to society. It's that society is inaccessible to us. So that's why we can't contribute. We want to contribute, but we can't not due to so much to our impairments, but to the fact that society is what disables us.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what...
Like,
yeah.
like-
Wheelchairs and ramps.
like-
Like a ramp's the issue, not the wheelchair.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That's,
Stairs are what... Stop.
That's a disability. So, like,
Stairs,
the example we give is like...
Without stairs, there wouldn't be a disability.
Yeah, so the way that we always explain it is that I got a really good mate, Jacob, who's in a wheelchair, and I go and have a coffee with Jake, sitting down. Jake can do that. He's not disabled in that moment. He's sitting down having a coffee. He has full use of his upper body, so he's not disabled in that moment. He's worked for me. He has a desk. His wheelchair works for it. He's not disabled. But if I moved officers and put his office at the top of a staircase with no other way up there, he's now disabled. But what changed?
The environment. The environment,
He
yeah.
stayed the same the entire time. And once upon a time, people with Down syndrome were called mongoloid and retard, and they were put away in asylums. Now they're a member of parliament in Spain. They've ran they've run a successful Ironman in America. Chris Nikic has done that, and that's a big
Virgin
boy,
Australia
a
flight
proper,
attendant.
a proper Ironman, right? And he went from a couch potato to an Ironman like 2 years. Absolutely incredible. Sophia Fitzgerald, who is a Victoria's Secret model, right, from Brazil, I think, or South America. Like, and again, the conditions stayed the same.
Yeah. Well, even if we look at home here in Penrith, Sean and Marley, they've run one of the biggest cooking shows in the country.
I love that one.
He works at Panthers, just around the corner.
Awesome.
It's tasty, beautiful. What's it called?
Sean and Marley?
Yeah, Sean and Marley, something.
It's just got a name. The name of the show.
Something beautiful, tasty, something beautiful.
Yeah. I don't know who they work with.
I love those guys. They are so fun.
Oh, and
They're so
Clayton's World as well.
Oh,
That's the hot dogs.
Yeah,
chicken burger.
When he's at the train
Chicken
station
burger.
and he walks up to
Chicken
the bin
burger.
and uses it like a speaker.
Yeah.
But that's what I love from the content side. That's what I love seeing is that when you're not laughing, like when content is being consumed and it's engaging, and the point of the joke is not laughing at the disability, and the disability is not the humor. It's the actual content and laughing along with, and then respecting that this person's different. The same as my hair might be blonde and your hair might be brown. The same as you might be Asian and you might be Indian. Like all of they're just
Totally
normal
totally,
differences. Like you have
totally.
3 arms, I've got 1. It's just a...
Oh, sorry. No.
We've all got 2 arms, but...
I
just love Jack.
I was kind of on a roll about the on the narrative thing, so I'll just finish it off. Then we'll go back to this.
Okay.
He has to finish.
Go,
his
go,
thought,
finish,
otherwise
Jack.
he'll
I'm very
freak out.
okay. So basically, so John Rorty basically kept it scared. That inspired,
To
basically
annoy Jack, I'm getting trouble and going.
that instigated, that basically helped inspire the movement towards deinstitutionalization, as well as not just a social emotional model of disability, but disability rights movement. All these different threads, all basically confined in creating a more accessible society. that social model had a big influence on the
86 Disability Services Act and the 1991
1992.
Discrimination Act.
And after that, you saw a rise in people with disabilities, going to commissions and basically saying, hey, I'm having trouble getting on buses. Buses are not accessible. And as a result, they said, you know what? Because the rules state that you can't discriminate or you can't hold disabled people back with environments, we have to make things more accessible. People began taking that to effect. And as a result, buses became more accessible. Buildings became more accessible. And certain places, like certain cinemas, became more. I think it was cinemas for the deaf, so they were able to have captioning in cinemas, so people who couldn't hear or are hard of hearing could now just watch movies like everyone else.
Amazing.
The entire world became accountable. So all of Australia became accountable in '92, which also meant that in living memory, it was legal to discriminate against them.
Or it wasn't so much even discriminate. It's just we didn't really consider them.
No, but as in, I could say I could not hire someone
Yes.
based on disability.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was their issue, not mine.
Wow, it's
my
mind blowing.
And so
thank you so much for
It's
sharing.
living memory.
Sorry, are we finished or not
Jack, are
finished
you
yet?
Okay, I am done with my narrative, but let's go back to talking about the story.
So, but what we were
love
saying
it,
though, but in
Jack,
terms
thank
of
you.
humour, I hate that there's just the disability industry and feel that has no effing sense of humour.
No.
They're just so scared. So the advice I've always given is just be the platform for people with disabilities. There's so many of them that have amazing sense of humour and take the piss out of themselves and others.
Totally.
Just give them a platform.
Yeah, I did, people think, I've been in the public with one of my mates, Ben. I've been mates with him for 15 years. And he's got, essentially, his disability means that he's got really restricted very, very little movement, basically from the neck down. We'll be eating and he'll say something, he'll be like, oh, what do you dress like that? And then say words that are just really offensive shit to me. And I'll be like, fuck, walk over here and say something about it. Yeah. And people in the public will be like, oh, what happened? And it's but that's I never came out and I have a relationship that I've built strong enough with him that I understand his personality. Yeah. I understand him and I are we're mates. The exact same banter I would have with my mate that doesn't have a disability, I would be treating him differently to not have the same sense of humor with him, right?
If your friend is
I'd be discriminating by not having that humor with him.
If your friend wasn't offended by that, no one else has the right to be offended on his behalf.
100%.
That is when you're at that level, that's a friendship where it's even if it was reversed other ways, you were the one who was disabled, and he wasn't, and he was saying the same shit. If you weren't offended, it's that's the level of friendship where it's nothing is off bounds.
Yeah.
For both of you, what would you say is your definition of inclusion? Right? It's a weird term, but what is the actual? If it was a rule, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think. How do you put it into a definition? Because I have many different views.
Yeah,
I think it's just where people just aren't seen. People with disabilities are normal, right? Yeah. But for me, the way that I see that play out is I always try and push on about the dignity of risk side of it and it be for better and worse, right? So yes, it's not about giving someone something for just because of the sake that they're disabled. It's hang on, the toast analogy that I use, right? If I'm sat on the lounge next to my mate and I go, hey, can you make me a piece of toast? He's going to go, no, you can do it yourself. The same way someone with a disability should be treated. That's not being discriminatory to them. It's being discriminatory to them to come and take it off them. It's for them to be treated normally, which in some instances that means they've got an extra set of hands to pull the bread clip off. In other instances, it's saying, no, you can do it yourself. Exactly the same as I would say to any other member of society because they are a normal person.
Yeah, inclusive... I think an inclusive society was where where we don't have to think about inclusion.
Yeah,
that inclusion isn't a thing. It's just a given.
Jackson.
Okay, I was just going back to Chris's point. This is just to Chris's point. I remember watching this clip. It's a high school playing basketball.
Yeah.
And one of the team members is in a wheelchair. Basically, the person's about to score, but then somebody comes up and smacks the ball out.
Yeah.
But there's just like you would do with any other player, right?
Yeah.
Yes. To let them score.
And but saying is you might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's so mean. Or it's no, that's inclusion. He's doing to that person in the wheelchair what he would do to any other person playing. It's like, oh, yeah, too bad.
Yeah, kind of like the PT
Yeah,
thing.
imagine
Reflex.
100%. Imagine if you go and you just get the basket because, like,
And
I saw a video
okay.
someone uploaded, and it was netball. It was a netball thing, and what they did is the chick was in a wheelchair, and then what they did is they picked up the basket and moved it over and got her to put it in, and then the person with the disability sat there just sort of like looked around and whatever, and then the staff go, yay! And I was like, this is the most condescending fucking shit I've seen in my fucking life, and everyone's sharing it like it's empowering.
Who's this for?
It was for the support workers to feel special.
They like roll out the people with disabilities at halftime and they get applauded, and it's just so gross. So our attitude has always been, our version of inclusion is always treating everybody the same unless you have a good reason not to.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So the point is, what's a good reason? And so there's sometimes where it's a good reason to treat, like, for example, if I'm organising a night out and I've got my friend in a wheelchair, I will absolutely think about accessibility because there's a good reason to do that. If there, you know what I mean? But if that doesn't exist, then I won't.
Yeah.
Everyone
Totally.
the same unless it's a good
I
reason.
love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I've actually, I have a friend who was previously quite into criminal activity, right? And he was involved in a home invasion, and there was, and then he unfortunately got shot, and now he's confined to a wheelchair, right? And he went through C4. Thank God he's still alive, right? So I didn't know him before his accident.
Right.
I know him after, yeah.
Oh.
So, but obviously
She was driving the
I
getaway
was about
car.
to say,
Yeah,
like,
no, he's-
company you keep,
Yeah, so, but he shared his
What
story.
does that paint us?
He shared
Don't
his-
paint us
It's your
with
net worth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He shared his story with me, obviously, and I'm fortunate enough to know him now as the now version of himself. And so, but he's a cheeky little shit, right? And so he came in here the other day, and he was floating around, and he was making crash jokes or whatever, and I threw my pen at him, right? And I was like, that wheelchair's not going to do anything for you if you come in here disrespecting me. You know what I mean? I'm going to treat you the same I would if it was anyone able-bodied.
100%. I know that Rachel would do that because she does it to me. I got blasted last week. She sent me a message like, you can't be saying shit like that.
So one thing that I've experienced is I've been in this industry my entire life, at WeFlex and before WeFlex. I spent 4 years spending, I reckon, half my work week, which is a big week, talking to and co-designing people with disability. That's all I did. And I swear to God, the only ever time I was ever caught up on language was by people without disability just deciding to get the shits about it.
Yeah.
I've never...
Yeah, that's what you said before, Jack.
I've
Like,
never actually had a problem. People with disabilities never had a problem with me with how I talk because they've always known that I mean well. The intention's there. And I'm
Being
sincere.
offended on other people's behalf is a real annoyance. Like, if they're not offended by it, you can't really be offended by it. I mean, I'm sorry, but...
I feel like it's when it's used derogatorily that it's like you. How did you say it before? When any word used for a person with a disability is always going to be.
No matter what type of terminology you use, for a lot of people, it's going to be seen as somebody who's quote unquote not equal or unable or like impaired or in a sense. Like no matter what word you use, you can be as careful as you want. But for a lot of people, it's going to mean not the same.
Or why are you even disclosing the disability thing to begin with?
Exactly.
Like when I was younger, I'd always used to say I've got a brother or he's disabled, and now I don't. I just say I've got a brother. But I don't know why. I just felt the need to fucking make sure everyone knew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
It's saying I've got a sister, she's broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why
Doesn't your sister listen to this podcast?
No, I'm not saying that that's an actual thing.
Oh.
Beck, I love you. But you're a broke ass. No, I'm just joking. But
It's just what it is.
I'm just saying, but it's like going around.
Yeah, it's like I've got a neighbour, but he's Indian.
Again,
What the fuck does that matter?
Okay, so it is very evident that you guys are so passionate about inclusion and everything that you do, which kind of leans us to probably why you went with Inclusive AF. And I think it's a message that you guys should continue to share. And I don't know if that's a part of this mission or this mission that you're on. But tell me about Inclusive AF. What is it? What do you guys do?
So at the moment, we've just started out. We're about to enter into like a bit of a autistic deep dive for the next 4 months when we put together a bunch of courses. So things we're passionate about at the moment is, DES, Disability Employment Services.
Yes.
We have experience. You should tell
some
some stories about, Jack will, but before you get loaded up. DES is something. So DES has been around since the 80s, right?
Yes.
The government spent around $5.5 billion on it.
Yeah.
We still have some of the worst some of the worst employment outcomes for disability in the quote unquote developed world. So we want to do some services or some education for their workforces, getting them work, but also for the employer, on how to support your new employee with a disability around support needs. But I'm going back to the millstone to create content to upgrade not just fitness professionals, but allied health as well. So a lot of allied health professionals, despite the fact they're degree educated, there's virtually no education on disability within it. Half the time, the education on disability that does exist is like the statistics of disability, which tells you nothing about when you're with someone and they're freaking out or having a bad day. That those stats don't help you.
Exactly
so
right.
Our education has always been support needs based, not disability based. So the notion is that, and we did this at WeFlex, and was why the training was so good, was because I could say, Rachel, my brother's autistic, go support him. Tells you nothing. I could say my brother's got sensory needs and he has behaviours of concern. Here's education on 2 of those things. Now you can support him because you know how to support him, and also you're looking at him through the lens of need, not label.
Yes.
And that's how you should look at every single client you ever had.
Yes.
Is their needs. So that's how we break up our training.
I love
It's support
that.
needs, not disability.
Okay, cool. And so is it launched? When can we see it? I mean,
Websites
can I have it?
The history course
Like now?
The history course is live.
Okay.
That's on our website, inclusiveaf.com.
Yes.
And we're also starting up a creative agency as well where we have creatives with disability.
Nice.
So we've got we're getting a web developer who's got cerebral palsy, a copywriter with psychosocial disability. And the reason why is because a lot of the times for creatives, they have chronic illnesses potentially, and it can go up and down. So full-time employment is very difficult. And carving out work as a contract in a creative industry, it's not at the best of times. Like, it's so up and come and go.
Yeah.
And if you've got a reputation for being sick half the time, a lot of people won't refer your work. So we're building out a Rolodex where we can support NDS companies with creative assets, creative work, storytelling, whatever it is. But all the work that we're going to be creating is going to come from disabled creatives.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And how inclusive.
Yeah, so it's called Disbranded, is what we're calling that.
Disbranded.
And that's getting worked up at the moment.
Boss, I love
so
it.
we spoke to, at the SIL summits that we did just then, I spoke to a few people about it. They're just like, yeah, that'd be great. Because I'm sure you two have seen it. I think marketing and branding in the NDS sector is
I don't know.
Oh man, the amount,
hot
like when
garbage.
people, like the amount of fucking purple and green trees and hands holding each other.
Yeah.
Oh man, like I say, like all
And you're a
our
marketer,
clients,
right? So how do you cope?
It's the same thing. Like, I don't beat around the bush and go, oh, you could maybe improve this. The same thing that I would say to my mates. It's the way I treat everyone, whether they've got a disability, whether they're a client of mine, whatever. And I just say, like, it's shit, bro. Like, and they go, oh, but I don't care if you spent fucking 3 months on it.
Something
It's
that's
shit.
changed with you. Did you start off trying to be nice about it, and you've
100%.
I've realised I have to be brutal.
Yeah. So the big thing for me was just before we decided to build any personal brand within the industry, because it's been coming up to 11 years now, and we always tried to make the company look very, very professional. Right. And then because we'd want, the affords and stuff to come to us. But at the end of the day, they were never coming to us anyway because they already had internal teams. Who we supported was smaller providers. And the providers that I really got the shits with, I'd get off the phone in the office and put it down, and I'd be like, another fucking taxi driver wanting to be a SIL provider. And then they went, the girls in the office said, let's build a personal brand on that so that people basically disqualify themselves if they're not for you. So that was where the shift really happened for me to then go, you know what, I'm just going to fucking tell people how it is. Especially, like, would you not, if you're paying for a service, do you want someone to beat around the bush for 45 minutes or just tell you how to fix it in 10 minutes,
Hourly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
So yeah, we're big on that, and so we think like the impact of, so you go to a disability expo and it's pretty depressing, branding wise.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, unless you come to mind, of course.
Obviously, and tender loving care, your previous guest, Yasser as well, gorgeous. But for the most part, it's pretty depressing.
Yeah.
But the issue with that is that, what do you think the impact of that is on a person with a disability going into that expo and everything is lame as fuck? What do you think that says to them?
And also
It's
that
cringe.
And
Like for me, from somebody who has, from somebody who's quote unquote, disabled, I go into that and I feel like, oh man, this feels like this is cringe. This is just, it doesn't really appeal to me. Like, as somebody who has high functioning autism and who's very artistic, I'm drawn to artistic expression. I'm drawn to like something really like,
Bold.
wow, it's bold, it's really nice, not crazy but hectic, but like nice, good look, it has a nice feel to it, nice aesthetic. Aesthetics matter. And some of the stuff just looks so like corporately no frills stuff.
Oh, it's
all
all the
safe.
white table. Yeah, it's all
I
the same.
think- I
Safe.
think-
No
safe.
no sharp corners or anything like that. Just and it just comes off as like, oh,
The
come on,
brands
a
that
little
put their
toothless.
neck out there are the ones that are going to win.
Yeah.
That actually are
Totally.
willing to have a public opinion about
Yes.
something
Yes.
and take a stand on something.
Yeah.
So
100%.
one of the things with WeFlex I was really passionate about is, me and Jack were really passionate about is like we wanted this to be a brand for them. We wanted to build it with them. It was all about them.
Yeah.
We only communicated and spoke to them. And we wanted the brand to be something that they would actually want to rep on the street
Yes.
and wear. And it was like we actually had a merch store and they just bought our hoodies all the time. And all our clients wanted the merch. And how many providers can say that like our clients love our brand so much they're paying
Yeah.
for clothes
Yeah.
to wear it to the
Yeah.
work and out in public.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like fit ability care services.
Yeah, yeah.
Happy
You see,
smiley face,
like,
smiley
you,
face.
You would think that there was like a law against having the word ability in your name
Yeah.
if you're in the sector or the word care.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If-
Or
I hate
you know
it.
what?
It's
Like
not.
even now, obviously, Alara is like its full name is Alara Support Services, and I'm just like, why did I even add support services? For what reason? Like I just only refer
Now
to
it's just
Alara
like
as
share,
Alara.
one word.
You know? Yeah. So like because I'm like, if we're actually telling people what we do, like Afford doesn't have Afford Support Services.
Yeah, but they're Australian Foundation for
Something.
something disability.
I didn't even know that. Didn't even know it was an
Yeah,
acronym.
yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. That was what they used when they rebranded to Afford.
Oh, okay.
Because
All
they used
right.
to be the green fucking oval, remember?
Nah.
Australian Foundation for... I don't know.
No, but I just think like even I get cringed over the fact that I have that in my name because I
Yeah.
thought it was what people did because it was what people had done and I didn't even challenge the status quo back then. Much you be
Oh,
loud
it's
and proud, much do it differently now. But I mean, it's nice to see that actually people aren't just trying to do what has always been done just because it's always been done, right? And that we're
Well,
shaking
that's
it
what
up.
this is. No, this is the thing. That everyone when my team get on the phone and do like discovery calls and stuff for people coming into our course, and then they go, we go. The first thing that we do when it comes to marketing is we do your vision, mission, values. I don't care if you've got one already on your website. Stick with it. I don't care. I'm not talking about this from a vision, mission, values from a business coach standpoint. I'm saying I need to know who the fuck you are because the only point of difference you have in this sector is who you are. So everything we're going to build out. And then so many people go, oh, I don't need that. I've already got vision, mission, values. Bro, I don't care about what vision, mission, values are on your website. I need to call it something else because we need to know who you are so that we can actually put together strategies that are going to help you grow based upon who you are. Alara is such a strong representation of you, right? You go to an expo and when you're walking around all the different stalls, you can go, that must be one of Rachel's staff. That must be one of Rachel's staff because it encompasses who you are and so does your team and everyone. Same thing with like WeFlex. You'd be able to go, they're definitely mates with Tommy. You know what I mean? Like you see that alignment because it's representative of who you are.
Oh yeah, but I one of my pet peeves is values. I think because I think you see values on a page and it's like caring. It's like
Oh.
you're in a fucking NDIS sector.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that just
It's
a
like a
given?
restaurant saying our values is being edible. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
good for you,
yeah,
you
that's
muppet.
exactly-
Like, it's also like
That's exactly what that's what I'm saying. We need to work out like our values, like no fucking cowboys and stuff like that. And we're like, that's what we want. That we need to work out what those that's what we're trying to get at because otherwise it's just exactly what you're saying. The values are we want to create edible food.
they're bullshit.
As somebody who's technically disabled, who is
Technically.
well, and then like no, I think it's
Obviously.
obvious. Okay, somebody who would be at needs of NDIS,
A quote-unquote user, potential
a
customer.
potential user and a customer. The one thing I don't feel comfortable with is feeling I'm being talked down to, pandered to. And one of the feels, even though it may not necessarily be the driving motivation for a certain NDIS company, whatever it may be, regardless of what it is, the two things I don't quite like, because it's kind of infantilizing of me, is a sense of charity or a sense of pity.
Yeah.
Company either sees me as something that needs to be, and they're feeling that they're charitable looking after me, or things that from the beginning pity me. Like, I don't want to have that type of feel. Like, that's why I love WeFlex so much, because it wasn't about pity or charity. It was about simply saying,
It was about
hey,
push you to be the best version
No,
of
it's
you,
like saying,
right?
hey,
It was just a fitness company.
it was-
It just happened to specialize in disability.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
essentially, it was basically a sense of social model, because it's basically saying, hey, are you having trouble at the gym because you can't probably navigate it due to social functioning, or are you unable because maybe because you don't know what ways to do and such? We'll help you out. See a problem? We'll fix it.
Well, and it's
Love
all
that.
it's
It's not a
almost
case of like, oh, you poor
discriminatory.
helpless thing. What's it got for you? No. Fuck
It
that.
would for you not to identify that as a business opportunity and a gap. It'd almost be discriminatory to not go and look. Okay, how do we do? Like it's so great. I love this conversation because that's what we try and explain, and people just don't fucking get it.
So one thing, so I wrote an article and it was called "Passion is Overrated."
Yeah.
And what I actually wrote was, I'm like, I think the entire industry needs to stop big noting itself for being passionate, because it doesn't mean you're good at what you do. I know passionate support workers that I would not let in my life, or any client of my life, because just because you're passionate at something doesn't mean you're good at it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, suicide bombers are passionate. Right? It's not. It doesn't mean values.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just means an intensity, and that's not always a good thing, because you can be tensely committed to wrong attitudes. There would have been really passionate people that were institutionalizing others as well, and so I don't need someone to be driving me to the shops for the right reasons. I don't need someone to be washing my arsehole for the right reasons or with their passion. I need you to be really good at what you do. I need high quality professional service that is respectful, right, and listens to my needs. You don't need to want to be there. You just need to show up on time and do a really good job.
Yeah.
And I hate the gatekeeping that occurs in this industry, where it's like, well, you don't really want to. You're not here for the right reasons, so you can't be good.
Yeah.
No, like.
Do you know what I think it's like COVID with the vaccines, right? Like it gives people this sense of superiority to judge other people and go like, unless you hear, for the like, who is that? But I think the changing of the new guard, like people like ourselves in the sector that are making noise and stuff, versus people that have been in the industry
I don't know what
for
you're talking about.
40
What
years.
at all.
Do you know what I mean? That are like approaching conversations as if people are real people rather than. It's the same thing with the COVID vaccines, where you want to dob your neighbour in because you felt superior to them because I got vaccinated before you and you're killing grandmas, and because you didn't,
Totally. There's a lot of passion in this room. I can feel it. And I think we've dropped more F-bombs in this episode than anyone
so
before. I'd
good.
like to count them. Tick, tick, tick.
glad.
Let's count them. But I know that you guys have got a hard stop with your finish. I just want to make sure that let you know that we're sort of where we were supposed to be in terms of your time frame. But
That's all right.
okay, cool. We can keep going. Okay, cool. All right, cool. No worries. So I do have a question then for you. With all of your knowledge and expertise and all of your training and I'm not using the word passion ever again, so we're going to take that out.
Oh no, we're passionate, but it's not a value add.
Yes. Okay. So with all of that,
not suicide bombers.
yeah. So with all of that, and so what are the top 5 things that you share in your training that gets better outcomes for people living with disabilities in employment?
So, what do you think is the main outcome, or the why the history course is a good idea for workers?
It gives people an idea of the history of disability, and also it gives them, in my opinion, how I see it, is I think it gives them an idea of what people with disabilities ultimately want. Like, on one hand, yes, they do need help in society. You just can't you have to understand that, which is why social model is the main motivating principle. It's no, make society more accessible to us. We'll take it from here. That's basically because that explains why they were against institution. That's why they would push for deinstitutionalization, saying no, we don't want to be captives of care. We don't want to be people who are languishing in institutions because you think we can't take care of ourselves. We can take care of ourselves. We just need society to be a little more accessible to us. We'll take it from here. Basically, it's like saying, let us make society more accessible to us, and we'll take it from here. Basically,
So there's a very loose culture, obviously, within disability, and it's informed by the fact that only in the last 50 years have they actually been involved in their own destiny. And so if they're really passionate about independence, then that's why, right? And so that's a really big thing for us. Second thing that we always teach and recommend is to absolutely dismiss the notion of labels and disability and instead focus on support needs. That's the only thing that matters. The only thing you have to focus on is support needs. Thirdly is to absolutely pivot the conversation and the branding. And I know it sounds super shallow, but I don't think it is. It's really important that what your brand is actually saying a lot to the industry, and it needs to actually mean something. And playing it safe is just the worst thing that you can do, I think, from a business perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, I reckon you're now much more daring than you would have been 5 years ago.
100%, 100%.
But
And
also,
I get it.
has it ever gone so catastrophically bad for you that you've had to close? No, you actually realise the envelope can go a lot further than I thought it could.
Yeah.
But also, stop thinking if you co-design, number 3, if you listen to co-design with people with disability and they are an absolute centre of your universe in terms of building your business, you're going to know what you can say, and all you're doing is reflecting their values and how they see it.
Absolutely.
Everything we said at WeFlex, and we said we said a bit of crazy shit when we were there. We never got caught up for it because all we were doing is just sharing the perspectives of our customers.
Yes.
And they were just like, hell yeah,
Yes.
Preach, she's clearly listening.
100%.
But one time when I was talking, I was doing something with deaf, hard of hearing. We did a course on that. We were doing Auslan lessons and everything. A bunch of people who were deaf and hard of hearing came up to me and said, you clearly have spoken to people who are deaf and hard of hearing.
Yeah.
The way you talk about it is so spot on. It just makes me trust you.
Yeah.
Is a huge part of it
Yeah,
as well.
totally.
So those are the big ones.
And I think just having more conversation about it, right? Like conversations like this where we talk and normalize it. You know, like I went and did a presentation at the Osmum conference. I was welcome to come and do a very short presentation there. And I had the option of sharing my business journey story. And I was like, I am not going to miss the opportunity of getting in front of 300 business owners and tell them about me. I'm going to use that platform to be able to share why I think how we can do better in terms of inclusivity. So it was around your business owners. So how can you make your workplace more accessible to people living with a disability, either to employ them or to access your services, right? So I used that 15-minute presentation to do that. And most of the presentation was actually a video of me sharing it from the perspective of those who live with a disability. Because I said it's very easy for me to stand up here as an able-bodied woman and tell you how to make your business more accessible. But that I'm just here truly today as a vessel to share the story, to share the actual opinions of the people that it actually affects, which is not me. So most of the presentation was actually just a video of me sharing and interviewing people with lived experience. And I feel by doing that, even though it took the shine light off of my business and my story, it was far more impactful because it actually got shared through the mouths of those that actually impact.
Yeah, sure. It's about being a platform.
Yeah, just a
For their
vessel.
voices instead of just making it about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I completely agree. We've always been really passionate about, but also you got to be. It's also a clever way to go. Jack's dying. So the really clever way to go about it though is that if we platform someone with a disability who has really strong opinions on it that might piss people off, you can get angry at them all you want, but they are absolutely valid.
They're living with it.
You can't tell someone with autism not to say that about people with autism. It's like, who the fuck are you to tell him not to say that?
Yes.
Jack can say whatever he wants.
Yes.
And so that's how you do it. Stay in your lane, but
Yeah.
open up lanes for them.
Yes.
And let them tell their own story. Just be a platform for it. But all you're doing though is you actually can stand out. You can push yourself out there further. And people with disability are going to see it and they're going to be like, man, they are all about us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think people with disabilities are sick and tired of people who don't have a disability talking about them, for them. They don't need anybody else to share their stories or their opinions, right? Or their perceived opinions.
A lot of people always find a way to magically kind of insert themselves in that story and they're a hero too.
Yeah.
It's all ego.
I do think as well, though, we're not at... I don't think society is at the point outside of the sector that it is inside the sector. So I think we will all listen to someone with a disability speak, but if you've never been exposed to that or something, it's just how our brains are wired. We're meant to think in 3-second hooks, right? Like that's how we've been conditioned to intake information now. Now, if Greta wants to say something, I'm going to give 6 seconds, 8 seconds to see if I want to actually hear that, because she's going to communicate that with me through an iPad, right? But if I'm scrolling along and I'm outside the sector and I don't understand that, you just wait and you see that, like, wait, and then it starts talking in a Siri voice, you scroll on. And so someone like Greta still needs that support until we bring the rest of society
Until we
to
get an actual nicer voice on those bloody iPads.
yeah, no, yeah, but maybe that is the answer.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that communication from outside the sector is people don't listen to those voices, because even like back to what Jack was saying before about, you know, not being equal or being seen as lesser. So does that mean the opinion's less valid? Does it mean it's less engaging? I don't know. I don't have the answer. But outside of the sector, I feel like that platform doesn't exist at the level that it should.
Totally. Boys, what an incredible conversation. Seriously, I felt so much passion. It was like oozing. Like, I'm energized from the conversation. You've literally lit another fire inside me. So I'm really grateful for your time and all of your expertise.
We're grateful for the opportunity. So
No, thank you for jumping on. It's been a really, really good episode. I think a lot of people listening to this, especially if you're a provider, you can take away a lot. And hopefully you share the views of us across the board. If you don't, we're probably not the episode. We're probably not the podcast for you. But excellent. Thanks so much, guys. It was great having you. We'll put all links to all your stuff in the description so everyone can check it out.
Can I just say one little message?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, like I said before, I'm still looking for a copy of John Rority's book, Captives of Care. If anybody out there, can I make a...
Yes.
If anybody has a copy or knows somebody who has a copy that they're happy to give away, please put a link or something, or
Reach out to us.
Reach out to us, please.
100%. I'm on a mission to find this book for you now, too.
Yeah.
You know what I
I've
mean?
tried. I've looked up everywhere. Abby's books, eBay.
Oh,
Can't find it.
Yeah, I don't like losing at anything. So I'm on this mission with you.
I
mate. We're
really,
getting there.
I need this book.
Okay.
Seriously.
We're getting-
Excellent.
All right.
Thanks so much,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Anytime.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for having us.